Hello, hello. As promised, I'm here. This one we'll talk about a little bit about forgiveness because that's what I said in the previous video that I was going to explain to you guys how I have learned to forgive people. Yes, I understand that this shirt is misspelled. I didn't print the shirt. I just bought it because I thought it was the most Florida thing. That and aside from like throwing math off in elections, like this is a Florida shirt. So just got back a little bit ago from taking the kiddos fishing. Took them out, got our limit of silver salmon. So they had a good time. Let them reel those fish in and seeing their smiling faces and seeing how proud they were at casting the little Spider-Man and Princess rods. Like that's what to me like that's one of the greatest joys in life. Just seeing that those smiles and that joy that's on their face. Um, Forgiveness. So in yesterday's video, I talked about how life is kicking me in the teeth right now, and that's okay. That life is kicking me in the teeth. I just have to stand back up, and it's okay sometimes to admit. It's always okay to admit that life is kicking you in the teeth because you never know when you're going to have those resources that step up to help you out. Sometimes it's just the universe that hears you, that life is kicking you in the teeth or that life is bullying you. And then the universe sends people or resources your way to help you out. Case in point, today was a beautiful thing. I had someone that came to the restaurant. We've had a conversation and they're interested in expanding or helping me expand this concept. And they just happen to have a finance company. So that conversation began and that conversation will continue. And then that person connected me with other people that are also interested in what I bring to the table as far as the knowledge within the food industry, as well as the experience that I have and my ability to teach and educate others. So there are a lot of entrepreneurs out there that want access to the type of knowledge that I have because I'm not afraid of anything in the food industry except vending machines because I haven't learned vending machines yet, but that's on the radar to learn that as well. With that being said, I got home and when I checked my email, right now it's late at night, it's after 10 o'clock at night, but when I checked my email at 9 something, I saw an email from my lawyers saying, hey, Derek, we believe the sheriff may have already been served or already served this thing down there in Florida. So if they did serve it within 24 hours, they'll come back and remove your property and set it outside in the public easement or the public right of way thing, and anybody can come take it. So you'd be wanting to go down to Florida as soon as you can to grab your stuff, whatever you want to keep. So, monkey wrench in the plans. I'm going to hop my butt on an airplane after I meet with my senator tomorrow. I'm very fortunate and blessed that I get to meet. I'm one of the people that get to meet with Senator Lisa Murkowski and the head of the Small Business Administration tomorrow, to learn so that they can learn more about my business and how it is that the SBA has or can help me propel this thing forward and what impact I feel I can have on Alaska. It's a beautiful thing. They won't know any of the crap that like, hey, as soon as this meeting is over, I'm going to be looking for the next airplane out of here to get down to Florida so I can grab my desired things out of this restaurant entity. And with that, yes, there were some feelings that bubbled up, um, none of which I will share here so certain people don't get joy out of anything. But this thing about forgiveness, it'd be really difficult for me to go down there and see that man standing there face to face and to not punch him in his face, um, or to not do things much worse than that to him because I don't think he's a good human being. And I doubt whether or not in this particular realm of how he's existing right now with this particular mindset that he's adding much value to the world other than being a father. Probably, I don't know, I can't speak for what happens inside of his household, but as far as his interaction with other human beings, he's a not a good guy. So how do you exercise forgiveness for someone like that? Well, Dr. Stephen Dyer has a quote. You'll probably hear me say this multiple times. That is, never the snake bite that kills you. It's always the venom that's coursing through your veins. And that's just the thing. Show me the last cobra that died after it bit you. Doesn't happen, right? That cobra moves on about his business. It is that person that has the venom coursing through their veins that ends up dying or ends up in the hospital with some severe issues. Life is that same way. I will have more people in my life like this dude, and I have had people in my life like that dude, that whether they're bigoted, racist, whether they're just crappy human beings for a number of reasons, a plethora of reasons, it just is what it is. You have those people out there, and they will bite you, right? Those people will stab you in the back. They will be that scorpion on the back of the frog that stings you. And it is what it is because that's who they are and that's how they're wired. It's that same thing as like, don't get mad at people that hate you. Haters hate. That's what they do by definition. Haters hate. You can't get mad at them. They are who they are. One of the best things that I found as far as forgiveness, though, is that you have to understand that when you've been injured, when someone has done you wrong, in whatever capacity that they've done you wrong, they move on about their life because they're just a snake and they've put the poison in your veins. It is up to you whether or not you allow that poison to kill you. One of the methods that I found for sucking that poison out, or providing an antivenom, is something that I heard of before, which is to imagine this person as a child. So hear me out in this exercise. As a child, when I think about this particular entity and what they have done, not only to me, but to other people as well, specifically black and brown people, people in the LGBTQ space, this person does not like black and brown people, period. This person does not like gay people or people that are too feminine in their eyes. They don't like people that are different than them. And that, people can say a lot of things like, oh, I have 3 black friends. Cool, right? But who do you hang out with all the time? Who are the people that get invited to your house to have barbecues with you and get to meet your family and things like this? It's very telling. It's truly very telling of who this entity is. And once I began to truly understand who that entity is, and then they showed their true colors, their truest colors, it's just this thing of understanding. If I look at that person as a child, I have to think this person growing up between New York and Florida. And what type of environment would a 3 to 5 year old kid growing up in Sanford, Florida? This dude is 50 something years old. So what would he have endured at way back in the day, growing up in Florida during that time period? And I'd have to imagine, given who he is as an adult now, that his parents probably put that stuff in him or kept him in an environment. And he and I have sat and had some deeper conversations about things that he's endured in life and different hurts that he's suffered. One of his biggest fears being called a racist. Ironic, right? But anyway, in doing that, I've often said to him as we've sat at the table that I've seen you revert back to a kid. I see your goosebumps that form on your skin as you start talking, and I see the emotion that comes into your face. I see how you turn all red all over here, and I see that. And as I see that, that is actually something for me that helps me not to react to his reaction, because I realize that he's acting like a child. And I'm sure you've been in the conversation with someone before where you go, man, you're acting like a child. You're so damn childish, right? You have to understand that in that moment, that person may have just reverted back to their childhood. This is somebody that grew up as a only kid, as a seemingly spoiled brat, right? In a household where there was some strict disciplines and some guidance about who and how they should hang out with, because of the stereotypes that surround people other than people that belong to that demographic. And with that being said, I have to think now, my children go to one of the most ethnically diverse schools in the entire country. And that's one of the benefits of living in Alaska, especially in Anchorage, Alaska, is the diversity that we have here. For a while, we quite literally had the most diverse community in the entire country of the United States. Well, with that being said, I have to say, if I saw this person as a 3 to 5 year old kid in school, preschool, or whatever, and I heard some of the things come out of his mouth that I've heard come out of this adult man's mouth, then I would have to say to that kid, hey, that's not the way you treat people. That's not the way you talk to people. Um, that's it would have to be handled like you're talking to a kid, to a child. This is how it makes it easier to forgive somebody. When somebody has hurt you, instead of looking at them as the adult, because it's incredibly difficult to forgive somebody when you look at them as an adult, imagine them as a 3 to 5 year old kid and then ask yourself, what is the life that they have lived that would cause a 3 to 5 year old kid to do that thing or perform that action that they took? What would cause that? So, in this case, if I have somebody that's a 3 to 5 year old kid that grew up not around a bunch of diversity, or if they did grow up around diversity, they were told not to hang with certain people. And if they did hang with certain people and they opened their mouth the wrong way about the wrong thing, if they started talking about blackies or tar babies or any other thing like this, then a certain demographic of people may have punched this kid in the mouth, honestly. And that may have left a bad taste in his mouth. Or there may have been a number of instances in this person's life growing up where they felt that they were being discriminated against because of the views that they held, which were opposite of the views of what some other group held. Getting into that whole kid thing and that kid mentality, understanding that this stuff still happens here in 2023. Racism still exists. Hell, y'all just saw this Alabama brawl and everything that happened. That happened the next month after my thing happened down in Florida. With that understanding, there are a lot of hurt children in this country. There are a lot of hurt children in this world. But specifically in the United States, as it relates to race, there are a lot of unhealed and unaddressed wounds in this country. There are a lot of people that grew up in certain environments that they still hold that, deep within themselves at their core. And it doesn't necessarily stick with one race. And I don't think it's fair to try to put everything on one race. It's in everybody. Hell, my grandmother's grandmother was a slave. Dude, think about that. I'm standing here now as a 43-year-old man, and my grandmother's grandmother was a slave, the first freed slaves in this country. My grandmother was the last group of kids in segregated South Carolina. Like, yeah, that stuff's real. So if my grandmother was the last class, the last graduating class of this segregated school, and then she had my dad, and my dad had me, what were the lessons that were passed down from my grandmother to me? And if I have those lessons and those mistrusts that were passed down to me as a kid, what are the lessons that are in that 50 something year old man, right? What did he see growing up? What did his dad experience growing up? What did his granddad experience growing up? And his granddad, his granddad's granddad would have likely been, well, I can't speculate on whether or not he was a slave owner or anything like that. I can just say that it was an environment where it was acceptable to have the mindset and the mentality that has been passed down through these generations. And when you look at it from that perspective, truly, what chance did this kid have? What chance did that kid have in that as he grew up and became a man, he may have encountered certain other things that just confirmed his negativity bias or confirm the negative thoughts that he was already having, or the things that were already implanted into his mind as far as what other demographics are like. And from that perspective, I have to step back and look at it as the kid and say, man, that kid really needs a hug. That kid really needs me right now to not perpetrate or perpetuate the stereotypes that they grew up in. That kid actually needs me to be a better man. That kid needs me to stand up and to show them that through my actions, that I'm not going to sink to that level of name calling or losing my temper or anything like that, regardless of what I feel inside for the lives that this dude is impacted. The man, the adult man, the lives that he's impacted, where you have, I'm not even going to give him the satisfaction of knowing the impact that he's had on some people's lives. I won't do that. I will just say this is one of the methods that I use, and I found it to be the most effective method for actually achieving forgiveness. And it works on yourself as well. So when it comes to this, it's what are the things that 3 to 5 year old Derek experienced, or what were the things that Derek experienced as a kid that would put him in this situation? You know, um, and if you think about that from anything that you're having difficulty forgiving yourself for, put yourself back and ask yourself, if you were a child and that child committed this atrocious thing, whatever it is that you did, you cheated on somebody, man, you murdered somebody, okay? You sinned in some other way, violated the Bible, you stole money, you didn't do XYZ, you failed in business, literally whatever it is, there's no limit to it. Whatever this thing is, if you look at it from the perspective of an adult looking at a kid and the behavior of a kid, it may allow you to put things in better perspective, and then you can forgive that. How many of you still hold grudges against a 3 to 5 year old kid? And if you are still holding a grudge against a 3 to 5 year old kid, maybe it's time for you to look in the mirror and grow up, because that's just a kid. And that kid is just mimicking the behaviors, modeling the behaviors that they've learned from somewhere else, from the adults in their life. And that kid is just a kid, and that kid still has a chance, just like you still have a chance. So learn to forgive yourself. And after you learn how to forgive yourself, you learn how to forgive others. And once you learn to forgive others, it doesn't matter how many times they sink their fangs into you. You learn to not let their venom kill you, because they will never die from the bite that they put in you. They are only going to continue on in their life, and it's going to be you who's left suffering. Stop suffering. Look at them as a kid and forgive them. Thank y'all. Peace.